Hello everyone, welcome back. So I have a tag video for you today. I was really interested in doing this one. This is the BookTube Questions Nobody Asked Until Now tag, which was created by Mike from Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance. I saw Steve Donahue do this last night also. And there's a question in this towards the end about a biography, and it stuck in my head and I kept thinking about it. So I really wanted to do this tag. And I'm just going to get right to it. Number 1. Do you own a copy of a book that is physically older than you are? Your own copy, not the original book. If more than one, then your favorite or the oldest one you have. Not valuable, just old. So I do have an old book, and when I pulled this out, something else came out with it because I keep it in a box. I've had this for a long time. Now, I am not a Catholic, but this is a little Catholic book that I bought many, many years ago. It is A Voice from the Tabernacle, and this is from 1905. And I bought this because I was just really fascinated by it. You can see it's like this leather cover and the gold. And did I say it's from 1905? I can't remember. It is illustrated. And I don't know. I just found it kind of fascinating. I bought this when I was about 12 or 13 at a flea market. And I don't know. I really liked it was really old and I was just fascinated by it, just to be honest. And some kid actually marked it up with an ink pen. The first like 20 pages or something are all marked up. And it's not really worth anything at all. It's kind of falling apart, as you can see there. I don't know how much longer this will last. I keep it in a box with some older things that I had for many, many years. And when I pulled it out came my BlackBerry, my like 15 or 16-year-old BlackBerry. And I think this was the last phone I ever had with a keyboard. And you can see it's held together with duct tape. I had this when I was like 17, 18, something like that. I don't know. It just brought up fond memories. Fond and not so fond. Anyway, I just thought that was neat. Number 2. What is your favorite kind of BookTube video to watch? Tell us why. I like all kinds of BookTube videos, so this one is kind of hard to do, actually. I like tags. I like wrap-ups. I like read-alouds. I like bookish discussion videos. So I'm not really sure that I have an answer for this. I guess I would probably pick wrap-ups if I had to pick one. I like book hauls. I like reviews. I like everything about it, to be honest with you. I guess I would choose wrap-up videos, though, if I absolutely had to, because I really like hearing about the books people have been reading and just things like that. People go off on tangents and they talk about other things, and I find that really enjoyable. And that's kind of my own style, too. And I think that I would go with that, wrap-up videos. Question number 3. What is your least favorite kind of BookTube video to watch and why? Well, there are quite a few BookTube videos that I don't like, but they're mostly by what I would call professional booktubers, people who want to turn BookTube into a career, make lots of money, and influence other people's reading habits and that sort of thing. What I like least of all, though, I do not like videos that are made specifically to stir up drama in order to get clicks, whether that may be videos about things authors have got up to lately or 200 or 300 years ago that we should all be outraged about right now, or videos about what other booktubers have done, or things of that nature. I'm not against videos that criticize what writers do or even what booktubers do. I just like least of all the one where you can tell that the person making the video doesn't really care about the issue, but they know that it's going to get a lot of clicks, a lot of views, and they're going to make a profit off of it. And that really, I just steer clear of that in general. Question number 4. What is a favorite book about books or reading? Can be fiction or nonfiction. So I didn't actually come up with anything for this question, and I realized it right when I said the question out loud, so I had to sit here for a minute and think. I went with a book, and I cannot recall who it is by. It's a big like coffee table book. It's called At Home with Books, and the author went around the world, really, and took pictures of people's home libraries and talked to the people who own those home libraries. I really enjoyed that. All these really neat pictures of the different ways people have home libraries. Some people have way too many books, like in piles. This is from the 90s, so it wasn't quite as easy to research things online at the time. But there's one picture I remember in particular of a lady. All you can see is her head, and she was some kind of college professor, and she was writing a book. But she's in this room where books are heaped in piles, just heaped in piles, and all you can see is her head. And there are books on the walls, and Keith Richards' library was actually really interesting. And one of the things I think was really neat about Keith Richards' library is that when you are a reader, you can look at somebody else's book and or books and tell whether or not they read those books. And you could tell by Keith Richards' books that he really is a genuine reader. His books are worn out, they're paperbacks, they're beautiful. This is, of course, from 30 years ago. He talked about how on these long flights they would take and that sort of thing, and sitting in these buses, and how he would read, and how he grew up reading. It's something he loved to do. But I just think that's really fascinating, just that concept of going around to these home libraries and taking pictures of them and talking to the people who own them. I really, really like that book. Question number 5. What is a favorite book that is not from either your own country or the USA or the UK, i.e. the rest of the world? So I went with The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. I really enjoyed this when I read it. I've been meaning to reread it. I think I read this 6 or 7 years ago. Pessoa was from Lisbon in Portugal, and this is a beautiful and depressing book about a man who he is writing about the loneliness and the beauty of his life, and how he wants no part in the lives of others. He doesn't want any friends. He doesn't want any lovers. He doesn't want to be remembered. I really need to reread this, and this is on my shelf to reread, hopefully soon. But I don't know. There are a lot of books. There are a lot of books I plan to get to soon. So maybe this year or next year or something like that. Number 6. What classic literature book did you enjoy reading the most, if any? I went with The Barber of Seville by Pierre de Beaumarchais. It's not really a book. It's more of a play. I just really enjoyed it. I had a really good time reading it. It's from the 1700s, somewhere in there. It is not the opera, The Barber of Seville. It is a play about a young nobleman who is walking with, I guess, his servant, the Barber of Seville. I'm not entirely sure why he is a barber. And the nobleman sees this young woman on a balcony, and he falls in love instantly. But she lives in this compound with this old guy he is her guardian. But he is very vain. He wants her to fall in love with him. He is much older than she is. He wants all her money. He wants her body also. And the young nobleman hatches a plan with the Barber of Seville to get this young woman out of this compound and to make her his wife. I bought it. I didn't know if I would like it. I read it. I loved it. I had a great time with it. I did not care for the sequel, which was The Marriage of Figaro. I don't know. It was written several years later. I just didn't like it. But I really liked The Barber of Seville. Question number 7 is, what decidedly non-classic book did you enjoy reading the most? No limits. I'm going to go with Ice Station by Matt Riley. Matt Riley is an Australian author, but Ice Station is about all these commandos who go to this. There's a U.S. station that was built on an iceberg, and it broke off and floated away, and it's been missing for 50 years. And so somebody finds this. I don't remember exactly how, but all these different groups, these commando groups from all over the world, converge on this space to steal what is in this base. and it is just a fight. Like, it is just full throttle from beginning to end. I loved it. It was so over the top. It was like an 80s action movie. I mean, it was just wonderful. And I had such a blast. But I've had a blast reading lots and lots of books, but that was the one that came to mind first of all. Question 8. If you had to pick a life partner, any gender, from literature, who would you pick and why? Time travel permitted. I really don't have an answer for that. I really don't know who I would pick or anything like that. So we're just going to move on to question 9. What author, living or dead, would you choose to write your life story? Can be a novel or biography. So I went with this guy right here. This is Merle Miller. And if anyone knows what book this is right off the top of their head, they may know that I'm kind of cheating here. This is Plain Speaking, an oral biography of Harry S. Truman by Merle Miller. And the reason this is cheating is because it's an oral biography, because Merle Miller went to Independence, Missouri, and spoke with Harry S. Truman for several sessions, several hours, and he got all these different answers, and they had this back and forth conversation, and then Merle Miller went and typed it up. And there are parts in between where he writes about what it was like to be with Harry Truman, and he talks to other people who had been around him. And so it's kind of cheating, because that would mean that Merle Miller would have to come here to my house, which would be impossible because he's been dead for about 40 years, something like that. And he would have to ask me all these questions, and that way I would be able to tell him my story. And that way he wouldn't get it wrong, right? I would tell him my story, and he could ask me lots of questions, and we could fully flesh out my whole life. And that way I think that there would be justice done to the story. Yeah, so I guess I'm cheating on that one a little bit, because I would have a big hand in how that would come forth. Question number 10, I think this is the last one. Choose 5 authors, living or dead, to join you on a BookTube live stream chat about books and reading. So I went back and forth with this. This was actually a really hard one. And I added some names to the list. I took some names off, but I came up with these 5 in the end. The first is Shirley Jackson, who wrote The Haunting of Hill House, The Sundial, lots and lots of short stories, books. And I'm just kind of fascinated by the way her mind worked, right? And I would just love to talk to her for a while and hear what she has to say. I haven't read everything by Shirley Jackson, but I would really like to. She had a really unique perspective of the world, I think. The next on the list is David Foster Wallace. So I know a lot of people don't like David Foster Wallace's books, and I have tried to reread some of them, but I just wasn't able to push myself to read them again. But I've watched many interviews with David Foster Wallace. I have listened to his radio interviews, and I just think that he would be a really engaging person to talk with. I think he was a very engaging conversationalist. He was very widely read, and I just think he would be a really interesting person to have on a live stream chat like that. The next is Robert Penn Warren, who wrote All the King's Men and lots of other books. I just think that he would be really interesting because, again, I think that he would be a really interesting conversationalist. And All the King's Men was sort of a book that I read, one of the very few books that I have read where there was a before and after. Like, All the King's Men changed the way that I looked at reading and at literature, because it was the first time I ever read a book and realized that prose could be beautiful. Like, I had never really thought about that before. I had always read for plot and that sort of thing. Entertainment, explosions, fast-paced, all that sorts of stuff. And after that, I realized that there could be a beauty in writing. The next is Anthony Bourdain, who, along with being a chef and a traveling TV presenter, he was also an author. He wrote several novels, and he wrote a couple of memoirs, I think. I'm not sure if he actually wrote a couple. I know that Kitchen Confidential was one. It's what made him famous. It's a wonderful book. It's one of my favorite books. It's really interesting. I loved reading about his story because he had a really interesting take on things, and he also changed the way that I look at the world. I've always been grateful to him for opening the world up to me in a way that it never was, and opening up the inside of restaurant kitchens in a way that it never would have been before. And he had a really unique way of looking at the world. He would tell you the truth. He was a very interesting person, and I'd love to have him on a panel like this. And the last person is Ray Bradbury, who is incredibly well read, very articulate, loved books, loved reading, loved writing. And I could not make a panel like this without having Ray Bradbury on it. Now, I have said before that I'm not the biggest fan of Ray Bradbury's writing, and I do find that a little goes a long way, that a lot of it is sickly sweet to me. But I think that Ray Bradbury was a real treasure of the 20th century, right? I think that Bradbury shaped the landscape of reading and writing over the past 70 years in a way that few other people have, and I would just love to have him on a panel like this. So that would be interesting. Shirley Jackson, David Foster Wallace, Robert Penn Warren, Anthony Bourdain, and Ray Bradbury. All right, and that is the end of this tag, the BookTube Questions Nobody Asked Until Now tag. I really enjoyed these questions, and I've enjoyed watching the 2 videos that I have seen so far, and I would like to see more, so I would imagine I'm going to tag some people. And I want to thank Mike from Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance for creating this tag. I really enjoyed doing this, and I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.